Hello there, welcome to episode 2 of This Is Lit, a podcast where we'll be talking about all things literature. My name is Emily, and joining me today is Prue Baker. Hello, Prue.
Hi, Emily.
How are we going?
And Sean. I'm well. Very
That's
well.
good. And we also have Sean Clark with us. Hi, Sean.
Hello. This is going to be like my catchphrase. It's just going to be me sounding like Frank Walker from National Tiles. I think I've done it, and then now I just have to run with it. Yeah, it's like another thing that you guys can make fun of me for. It's fine.
Yeah, good idea, actually.
You're just making it too easy for us, aren't you?
Yeah, look, if you can't beat them, join them.
Good mindset. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, as we mentioned last week, if you listened, we've made this podcast to pretty much talk about the Year 12 text that we're teaching at the moment. So today we're going to be continuing on with our discussion of the longest memory, and then as of next week, we're going to move on to the 7 stages of grieving. So yeah, last week we chatted about characters. Today, though, we are going to be moving on to talking about the themes that are explored in the novel. So yeah, our discussion will be based around 4 focus questions, just like last week, and ended with a little quotes game sort of thing. So to kick things off, I guess, we'll go back to basics. What actually is a theme?
All right. I've got a definition of a theme straight from Dr. Google.
Most reliable source.
Excellent. Love that.
Professor Google. So the best. So the theme in the story is its underlying message or big idea. In other words, what critical belief about life is the author trying to convey in the writing of a novel, a play, short story, or poem? So it's basically like, what meaning do we get from this text? And a text that you study will have multiple themes, so more than one.
Cool. So that being said, Sean, what are some of the themes that we see in The Longest Memory? Was that Sean disappearing and coming back?
Yep, I'm back.
Yep.
Just kill me now. Just murder me. Oh my god. I missed all that. I assume you were like, hey, do you want some important themes now? Like,
yeah, I pretty much asked you to tell us what some of the themes are from The Longest Memory. So if you could do that, that would be great.
I'll do it really quickly in case I drop out again. So the major themes that we discuss is powerlessness within the text, power and powerlessness in the text, the role of women, and identity and belonging. The reason why these 3 texts are done, these 3 themes are done a lot, is because they often come up in the exam. And I would say, like, in my professional opinion, that they are like the most important themes within the text. So powerlessness is explored obviously with Cook and Lydia, and people being powerful, or having some power over others. In the text is obviously Sanders Jr., Sanders Sr., and to some extent, and I know that we discussed this last week, but like Cook has like power or influence over some people in the text as well. Then we talked about, obviously, the role of women is a really important theme within The Longest Memory. Obviously, like how the women react to everything terrible in their life, and how little power they have is like discussed a lot of the time in the book. And obviously the role that Lydia plays in her progressive views, what the editor, like the Virginian editor, calls her progressive views. And then we also talk about identity and belonging as well. So how the slaves kind of view themselves, and how other characters view themselves, and how they belong to a certain family unit or a certain group, or obviously a certain race and stuff like that. So yeah, those.
I'm guessing she was going to finish that sentence by saying that those are some of the themes from The Longest Memory. Cool. So now that we've just like kind of introduced what themes are, what themes are within the novel a bit, we have come up with 4 like discussion questions, which we're going to have a chat about now. This first,
yep, that was me.
This first one is one that Sean has come up with, and that is, what is the greatest injustice in the novel?
I love this question.
I found this really hard, I must say.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? I think the obvious answer is the slavery.
Yeah, like just as a collective.
Collective slavery, yes.
Yeah.
Slavery, pretty, and the cruelty that the African Americans are subjected to through the like complete lack of freedom, and as a result, like lack of hope about the future, and the present and even past, that they experienced. Yeah, and just the powerlessness that they had, like they experienced from being enslaved.
Yeah, because I guess
Um,
that's like a key thing where like they actually didn't have the power to change their situation at all. Like that was just their fate. It was just like, yeah, well, you've been born into slavery, so you're going to be a slave for the rest of your life, and if you run away, you're probably going to get killed. So
yeah,
have
yeah.
fun.
This is your life
They
now.
had
Ha ha ha.
Mm. Yeah.
they had to literally choose between, if they wanted to choose their freedom, it's almost certain death. So like you can understand why many probably wouldn't, like that's pretty, like that would be a very scary choice.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah.
Mm.
I think personally, before I probably cut out again, I think the greatest injustice in the novel is probably Chapel. I don't know. Chapel to me seems like he's like a voice of the African Americans in the novel, and I find that like that obviously he gets killed by Sanders Jr. and I find that the greatest injustice because it's kind of like Diaguer or whatever his name is. He's like stamping out all that hope that we had, not only as other African Americans that are represented in the book, but also the reader's hope as well that Chapel could one day find happiness, perhaps, in this terrible life of his that's not his fault.
Yeah, well, I guess it's interesting by how the novel is written. We don't even get that hope because we know straight away that Chapel died. So when we then learn about his life and his budding romance with Lydia and learning to read and write, that it just highlights that tragedy of that because we know that he's not going to get what he wants.
He's not going to make it. Yeah,
we know
that's what I
badly.
would find the greatest injustice would be. I think, it's just, it's very sad. I hate it.
Yeah. Another thing that I found really sad is like Whitechapel's situation, where it's like he's lived his whole life, which was a really long life. They talk about that a lot, the fact that he's been alive for like forever. And he spent his whole life like trying to make the best of the situation, trying to like make sure that he always like is, doing his best to earn the respect of other people. He tries to like educate the younger slaves to keep them safe from harm as well during their lifetimes. He tries to, that's ultimately what he's trying to do for Chapel, which, like whether he actually did the right thing or not by, telling Mr. Whitechapel about his whereabouts, that's like obviously up for debate. But within all of this, like his heart was in the right place. And so like, he's tried to do all the right stuff and make the best of like his life, but instead he ends up witnessing the death of his son, which is he ends up like blaming himself for. The rest of his family shuts him out as well, and he ends up spending like his final days just like filled with grief. And like there's that, I think the second last chapter where he's just like questioning all of his values that he had during his lifetime, and he's kind of like hating on himself for the way everything's turned out. And I found it quite sad, like that he's tried to live a life of good but ends up being like literally unable to live with himself and is like hated by everyone else that he knows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Moving on to question number 2. Prue Baker, what is your question?
My question is, now that I think about it, maybe not so thematic, but what do you think is the takeaway of the novel? So after reading it, like what's something that you learned?
This was another hard question. I feel like they were all kind of tricky for me this week. Maybe it's just like symbolic of like where my head is at the moment. I can't think very well.
I feel that.
I feel like the main sort of goal of this novel was just basically to shed light on how awful the experience of slaves was or were, I don't know. And to kind of like give a modern audience an understanding of like the roots of racism and where it all kind of stems from. So I think it does like quite a good job of showing like what it would have been like to be in the South during the 1800s from like a variety of perspectives. So like even if you can't really relate to being a slave or being black or anything like that, they also have like Mr. Whitechapel, who's like conflicted with his views. You've got Lydia, who's like a woman who like has
very little voice.
So I feel as if, the main sort of takeaway was that, like, hopefully the readers would have a bit more of an understanding of, like, the plight of African Americans in a more modern day setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
that
had the
kind of
same view. My view was just to, like, educate, like, to be able to be educated, like, about the time and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, me and Emily, I suppose our answers are going to be very similar. But yeah, mine was to educate a more modern audience. But you put it very eloquently, and I'm just like, I don't know, to learn. Sorry, Prue, for cutting you off.
That's fine. I guess mine's probably the same, like that generational trauma. So by understanding the past, we understand the present, and we understand how trauma can get passed down from generation to generation. So I guess that from that inclusion of that chapter from the great grandmother, I think that really touches on that idea of how, this great granddaughter during the time that the novel is set is now a great grandmother, but obviously her trauma would have been passed down to her and descendants as well. So I guess we learn about this trauma that the African Americans and the slaves would have experienced from slavery and just the denial of their basic human rights, and how that would have been passed down, and how it can ripple down and affect current generations as well.
And I just think it pairs so beautifully, like, with the 7 stages of grieving, which obviously we're looking at next week, like, because all that sort of stuff, I don't really, like, as somebody that hasn't suffered, obviously, racism, from racism, it's bettering my knowledge of generational trauma as well. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I think and that ties in with my next idea as well. It's like we kind of see also how people deal with grief and loss. Like these people almost experience similar things in their own individual way, but they deal with it in a different way, and you can see the polar opposite way of how Whitechapel and how Chapel deal with their grief of being enslaved, the loss of their freedom. And I guess we've kind of learned that there's no correct way to deal with it.
Grieving is not linear.
Grieving isn't linear. And
it'll be cool once we start comparing that with like 7 stages next week. I think that'll be really good. Cool.
So keen.
Cool. So on to the next
question.
Let's
continue.
Another one from Sean is why do you think the author has included the plight and suffering of women in the novel?
Oh yeah. Tell me your reasons.
Well, I think we get an insight into like the intersectionality of race and sex. So we see how Black women are treated as opposed to Black men, where they might have similar experiences but not the same. And the example would be like a big example would be Cook and how she was treated when she was raped by Sanders Sr. And really how nothing really was done. It was up to Whitechapel to kind of to do anything about it. If it weren't for Whitechapel,
she would be screwed.
Who knows what would have happened to her? So I think we've got to look at also how people experience like their experiences because of their gender as well, and when it's intersectioned with race.
She's what did my students say today? I think they said she's like doubly what word did we use? Doubly I can't think of it. I suck. I can't remember.
World.
Love it. She's like doubly like messed up in her life, basically. Like she won't make it as a person of color, and she won't make it as a woman back in those days as well. Like all she can hope, like she just has to hope for the best. Emily, what did you think? Oh no, Prue's still going. Oh
no, I was just gonna say like like if there's anything harder than being Black, it probably would be being Black woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a slightly different take where I thought too that maybe it was that it's to kind of show that there's like multiple groups that have been oppressed throughout history. So like
Yeah.
obviously the main focus is obviously on the experience of black slaves and the way in which like they as a group have experienced like a crazy amount of inequality and discrimination in society and everything. But yeah, I also thought that the author might have also wanted to kind of remind us that like there's other groups in the world and in throughout history that have been oppressed and discriminated against as well.
And that are also
yeah.
still struggling to have their voice heard as well.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like so I thought it obviously wanted to give like black people a voice and then also maybe give women a bit of a voice as well, especially from those times. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I thought that Diagua was trying to do anyway.
Yeah, I do have in my notes, I said he's all about giving the voice to the voiceless.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, that's such a good quote.
For your introductions, guys. There you go.
Yes.
And I think I could be wrong about this, but the women have the most chapters, or maybe Whitechapel does.
Ooh,
but
I've never counted.
There's multiple Cook chapters, isn't there? And there's multiple Lydia chapters.
I think we've got 2 Cook chapters, 2 Lydia chapters, and the great grandmother chapter.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay. And Whitechapel does have a few, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's
I mean,
a few
he
in
is
there.
the
Like, they have more
protagonist.
than they have more than the general.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah, so smart.
Yeah, because Chapel only gets 1 chapter. Sanders Jr. gets 1. Sanders Senior gets 1. Mr. Whitechapel has technically 2, I guess.
The plantation owners.
Yeah.
If you count that one, yeah.
Interesting.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, neither.
Cool. Nice.
Cool. Moving on to our final question for today then. This is my one here. It's not as thought-provoking as the rest. But yeah, I wanted to know, what is the significance of the book's title, The Longest Memory, and which themes does this relate to?
I think I think it relates to memory.
Oh my god!
Probably didn't think of that, did you?
I had no idea. How did you work that out? That's so cool.
That's how I think, just outside the box. So obviously, and I think also back to, it's like, feels like a buzzword, this podcast, but generational trauma.
No, this bodes well. This bodes well for our next unit. Like, this bodes well for 7 stages, because that's pretty much what we talk about the whole time.
Okay,
great.
Yeah. Good.
So more fun, like lighthearted sort of conversation. Can't wait.
Yeah, real fun, lighthearted stuff. Love it. Sorry, Prue, keep going.
And I guess just how things are carried down, the longest memory, meaning I think it can relate to Whitechapel being, he's been alive for so long, and his memories, but I think the memory is, the memory of slavery and it being just passed down for over 100 years, through hundreds of years, through generations, and what that means. So yeah.
I think it was kind of like a nod towards, I don't know, like, I obviously agree, and I think that's why Diagua's done it, but also the longest memory, I don't know, like, yes, it means like the longest memory in the past, but also the longest memory kind of, to me, I don't know, this is probably totally wrong and really like left field, but it's almost love it. It's almost as if this is the memory that will never end, because this is a struggle that will never end. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's really grim.
Yeah. And so, like, the longest memory, like, it continues to get longer and longer, being the longest memory, because the racist struggles, like, obviously it's very topical at the moment with the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff like this, like, we're still experiencing this from the past all the way to the present, therefore the longest memory.
Love it.
You guys probably like that was crap, but
no, actually,
I would tell you, Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like,
we wouldn't hold back.
Anyway,
my take was pretty similar to both of yours. That, like, if we look at it on like a more superficial level, it refers to Whitechapel. but like in a more broad sense, it's talking about how it's still a thing. Like even though we haven't actually practiced slavery for many years, there's still a lot of people who are suffering from it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also probably still quite a few people that have like archaic views regarding race as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that we need to remember, like these are the things that we need to remember and talk about.
Yep.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Nice.
Cool. Well, I guess that brings us to our final section of today's episode, which is Who Said That? Okay, so
I love it. I love it already.
So we've each picked a quote from the novel which relates to some sort of theme. And we're going to be guessing what the theme of the quote is, as well as like who said it and how it kind of relates.
Love it.
So I guess I'll go first. So my quote is, "I can see their dreams as plain as their colour and youth on their faces. Paradise is the answer I get from them."
Ooh.
As plain as what did you say? As plain as the
So I can see their dreams as plain as their colour and youth on their faces. Paradise is the answer I get from them.
Oh, is it
Plantain? Nah.
I was gonna say Whitechapel.
What?
Yeah.
And is it relate to like hope and like youth?
Yeah, so it's do you want me to tell you or do you want to keep talking?
Am I wrong?
No. Yeah, you're on the right track.
Okay. Like hope because of like when like youth brings hope usually of like, you know, a bright future, positive future. That's what I've said.
So he's I guess like specifically talking about like the young slaves, but like the young runaway slaves in particular. And because he's talking about how when like they, or I think it's something like when he asks them where they like think they're going, they say paradise.
Yeah.
Because freedom is paradise.
Yep. Yeah. Good job, guys.
All right. I've got two and I can't decide which one I want to do. I'm going to do this one. Okay.
Love it.
The human spirit is passive in some, but nature shows us that it is rebellious in most.
The humans. Can you say that again, Prue?
Yeah. Is it too hard? Okay. The human spirit is passive in some, but nature shows us that it is rebellious in most.
Is it Whitechapel again?
No.
Is it Sanders Senior or Junior?
No.
Far out.
I chose the easier one. Damn it.
Is it Mr. Whitechapel?
It is, yes.
So smart.
Yes.
Obviously, themes. Say the quote one more time.
I actually really liked this quote as soon as I read it. The human spirit is passive in some, but nature shows us that it is rebellious in most.
Cool. So it's kind of talking about how so Whitechapel would be considered like passive, but Chapel is obviously quite rebellious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's natural to rebel. I think it links to freedom as
I was going to say freedom and hope.
Yeah. It's almost natural to rebel against being enslaved. So basically slavery is unnatural.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
I like it a lot. All right, guys, you ready for mine? Mine's super easy.
Good, thanks.
Thanks, love that. So I'll just start reading it. This is, you'll know who this is. The master is daylight, the slave is night. A complete day needs both light and dark.
I feel like that wasn't as easy as she made out for it to be just then.
My bad.
Can you repeat, please?
Yes. Oh, good. Sorry, I cut out. So I said, the master is daylight, the slave is night. A complete day needs both light and dark.
Is it the Virginian editor?
No.
Damn it.
Is
Damn it.
Is it Mr. Whitechapel again?
No.
Is it one of the plantation owners?
No.
What?
Is it
It's
Whitechapel?
It's Whitechapel.
What? Oh my god! Would
Yeah.
he say that? Oh, that.
Because remember how you guys talked about at the end when he kind of resigns to his life?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming from that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I love it.
Like that's saying that like they need each other as like slaves and masters. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I got it. A complete day needs
Wow.
both light and dark. So
Jeez,
is he
that's
making a
bleak as
comment?
well.
Yeah, it's very bleak. It reflects like his thoughts at the time as well. But he's making a comment on how, and I'm getting a bit history teacher on you here, America would not have been as successful or rich if they didn't have slaves, if they didn't do all of this. So I feel like it's a nod to that. I don't know.
And I guess too, like the view at the time that like they couldn't have functioned without slavery, like they needed it.
Yes, they needed it to live and make money, and well, not obviously the African Americans, but the white Americans, they need the slaves to make money.
Yeah.
So, I'm just like shocked that Whitechapel would think that, but then I guess maybe if he's indoctrinated in a way, like if he's just kind of resigned and he's like, this is the way of it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, I like
that.
Cool. Well, here I was thinking like, our quotes are going to be just really obvious ones. We've all gone for like tricky ones, I felt. Even Sean's, that was allegedly easy.
I thought it would be easy because when I was going through the book and finding it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is obviously clearly from the end, like the end of the novel. And then Whitechapel talks at the end. I don't know. Leave me alone.
But I feel like Whitechapel also always talks in like that dreamy, reflective way.
True.
True.
Alrighty.
Cool. Well, that wraps up episode 2, guys. Thank you for listening. Next week we will be beginning The 7 Stages of Grieving, which is by Wesley Enoch and Deborah Melman. So tune in then to hear a bit of an introduction to our new text.
Alrighty.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you. Bye.